Hello, I'm Toycat, and do you recall how a few months ago I built a giant desert temple to prove how it's something you should never even attempt in Minecraft survival? Well, this absolute mad lad, KyleCaster101, decided to do precisely that. They built the entire thing, including the insides, properly scaled. It is incredible to look at, and because they don't have their HUD, it even looks like they're just tiny in a real big Minecraft world. This is beautiful, and the best thing about this, because when I saw this I was like, wow, this guy did something really cool, parallel thinking and all that, but it actually turns out that he was inspired by my video on this exact same thing. He said that was actually the inspiration behind this project. I went the extra mile and did custom textures to show how it could be done, and I love seeing what the community can do in response to these videos, which is why I figured we were due for a sequel to things you shouldn't build in survival. But first of all, we're gonna have to finish off this desert temple, because if KyleCaster101 can do it, you know what I can do. So I spent an hour trying to get this thing to work, and I'll be honest with you, I don't think we've done that. We have a few places where it looks reasonably acceptable, but in the center here, I just couldn't get a proper entrance. There wasn't enough space, so instead we have this. It looks like a creeper man, but he has no arms and only legs apparently. It's ridiculous to look at. I'll admit that I failed here, but what I'm going to be doing in today's video is talking about other things you shouldn't build in Minecraft survival, because that's what my entire goal is with these videos, is to show you things that I'm really curious about and would love to make into a survival project, but that I really know I shouldn't try out in survival, like my first thing here, which is going to be going to the end, because, you know, we have an end right here that we actually tried a few things with. We've covered it in ice, it's a fun thing. In my overworld, I've covered it in glass by hand in survival. One of the things I've always been most curious about when it comes to the end is what exactly would happen if you removed the end towers. I mean, then you end up with an end which is just end stone, right? But then what happens if once you remove the end towers, you remove all of the end stone as well? This is a project I would really love to attempt in Minecraft survival, because you could redefine what the dimension looked like, because once you remove this, there should be nothing, right? But what exactly does that look like? And we're going to try and find out in creative today. First of all, we kill all the entities, including the dragon. Wow, look how good I am at killing the ender dragon. That was so hard, I know. But now we've taken down all of the towers as well. Now we want to remove the bedrock on top of each of them, as well as, of course, the iron bars in the places that make sense, because two of these towers will always spawn with the bars around them, which is usually a struggle if you don't have wonderful commands working in your favor, which again, you know, nice to be able to skip that part of the process. And then once we've done that, we can remove the towers. This is fairly easy to do. We don't need to be particularly surgical about this. All we need to do is fill a huge amount of area with air instead and just, you know, remove it like that. Because again, usually we'd remove just the right block that we're trying to go after, but today we can just make these giant holes in the ground because we need to remove the end stone later anyway. So step by step, we remove each of these. Already you can see how the end looks so strange without its pillars, but again, the question I have is, what is the end like without anything here in the dimension besides the portal? Except, you know, even this portal right here that takes you back to the overworld, if you're in creative, you can destroy that. But again, we're going to talk about the survival side of this thing. We're going to be talking about what you can actually destroy in survival, which is everything besides the bedrock blocks. So let's talk about what it'd be like if you removed all of this end stone. So in survival, this would take many weeks of work, just mining with efficiency 5 pickaxes, which you have to, you know, break in over and over again. And it's something I would love to do. It's something I've been so tempted to do on a regular basis. But again, we need to stop ourselves from getting into silly survival project on that level. So instead, what we do is we use this command right here to replace all of the end stone in a particular chunk, or rather a 20 by 20 area, with some air, which, you know, is a very huge operation. We're removing thousands or tens of thousands of blocks with every single placement, but it is necessary to remove the end stone. It's crazy to think that the amount of work that could be done in like an hour and a half is done in a second and a half using this command, but again, goes to show that, you know, if you just want to prove a point, you can go through the effort and you can do it. Yeah, commands are quite powerful in Minecraft. Who would have thought it? The bigger question beyond just like what the end looks like with no end, because, you know, you can probably imagine what a blank space looks like, but the bigger question to me is like, what happens if we respawn the dragon? Can the dragon respawn with nothing here? Do the pillars have to spawn on top of the obsidian? Does the obsidian come back every time? Can you have floating obsidian in the end void of nothingness? These are the things we need to know. And these are the things we're gonna know as soon as we're done removing the rest of these chunks. And by the way, it looks very surreal with the tiny little slivers that have been left over from, you know, accidental wrong spacing. And I kind of like that personally. Oh, we forgot about the obsidian spawn platform. Honestly, a part of me likes the end more when it's like this. Tell me if you disagree, but I'm loving the the weird plains of existence just surrounded by nothing, where you know there used to be a bunch of endstone. But we have to remove it anyway. So this is the end, minus everything there that isn't made of bedrock, the single portal we got for killing the dragon the first time, and the way back home. This is very surreal, and the fact that you can do this in survival is kind of wacky to me. I have a few questions though, such as, if we actually can go through this portal, which we'd have to fly to do of course, what exactly happens when we come back? So this is the end islands, which of course we haven't destroyed, although if you wanted to, you could totally do that too. Okay, here's the question. 1, actually this is a really nice end portal. 2, what happens when I fly through it? And the answer to that is you spawn in the void of nothingness, and then you would die. I need to do that in survival, just to be sure. Wait, no, do you see that? There's a little island that has formed below this. Okay, so it will spawn you in the void of nothingness and kill you, but it will create a brand new end island in your end. I was just trying to do silly Minecraft ideas, but I think we've discovered a Minecraft feature that no one is ever going to need, that your end will actually regenerate rather, mildly naturally? Huh. What happens if we go to the overworld and then we come back to the end? And the answer to that question is there is a platform that spawns for you. So yeah, when you teleport via the the end gateways, you end up back there with a random island which spawns below your portal, but not where you should spawn, so you'll fall into the void and die. And if you go via this way, you'll get a little platform made out of obsidian, which you can spawn on, and you can mine it again if you want to, and get infinite obsidian this way, because you just fly from that over to your end portal, and so on and so forth. Is this a good solution? That's highly debatable, I would say. So this is one of the oddest things about the end, but I still need to know if, let's just say, you grab some of the, respawning the dragon abilities, because fun fact, the dragon never truly dies. She just, goes into an inanimate state. She's the last of her kind, but she can be revived with a weird ritual, which has these crazy cubes on top. It doesn't make any sense in real terms, but I want to see, does it create new pillars? Because it does create, apparently, some end stone, literally like 10 blocks, and it's also creating, oh, yes, it creates a brand new bunch of obsidian pillars in the void of nothingness. So there's not really even enough contrast to see what's happening here properly, but we have ourselves a bunch of pillars which span all the way down to, pretty much the ground, void itself, because there's nothing for them to spawn on. If you want to see some higher contrast, I think this looks a lot better. This is stunning to look at. This is bizarre. This is strange, but it's a real thing you can do if you just mine out your entire end. Honestly, this almost doesn't fit in the video, because this is something that's a bad idea to do in terms of time investment, but in terms of the cool result, it's like, yeah, this would be pretty great, wouldn't it? Just saying, if there's ever been a time to destroy your entire end, now might be that time. Also, if you kill the dragon over this portal, all the XP goes flying usually, and that means that if you kill it without any blocks there between you and the end, it'll just fall into the void. Oh no, it all fell perfectly in a straight line there. That was very strange. Huh. Okay, curiosity's getting the better of me again. Now I've got 2 of these, and I've removed both of the islands. Will they both regenerate, or will just one get a new end island as a result? So we're flying around looking for another end portal. Isn't the static background of the end beautiful when you have night vision? It definitely is. Okay, so this time we fly through it, and we spawn on top of an island. Okay, so it actually worked as intended. But it didn't produce islands under both of them, just under the one we were coming back to. You know, it's odd. I don't understand Minecraft sometimes, but we learned about a brand new feature today, and I guess that's more than we expected. Anyway, the next thing we're going to be diving into today is not going to presumably discover something brand new, but you never know. So yeah, I was kind of wondering, in a similar vein, what would it be like if we went to the nether, and instead of replacing it with nothing, what if instead we replaced it to make it entirely different? For instance, we could use snow to replace the netherrack, and we could see what the nether would look like if it was an entirely snowy dimension. Imagine how silly you'd have to be to attempt this in survival. Ha 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 ha. Definitely haven't been working on this for, the last few months or so. Ha 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 ha. But yeah, as you can see, it's a cool way to, make the nether icy, for instance, because it doesn't work for snow alone. It works for anything else. Maybe you secretly love the fact that I spent literally months doing something in survival that I could have spent literally minutes doing here in creative. Maybe that's fun, but I figured, why not use this as an opportunity to test something more unique, because, using the buffet format for Minecraft Java, you can actually use the nether generation to test a whole bunch of things, but something you can't do is test what would it be like if the nether was made up of mostly water. That's right, we're going to keep every block around here that isn't netherrack, so there's going to be a few you know, weird edge cases of like, oh yeah, soul sand and gravel. Don't forget nether quartz, etc. But if we replace most of the blocks around here with water, what does the nether look like then? Because a lesser known fact about Minecraft Bedrock is it does actually have a color for water in the nether. It's never used in the game itself because you can't get water here in survival by any non-cheating means, but you can place water in the nether using creative if you really want to. So yeah, we can see a nether that's made up of this reddish, you know, nether water. It's beautiful, and we can see what the nether would be like if instead of being a hellish dimension, it was an underwater dimension. What if instead of 1.16 being the nether update, it was instead the water update, and there was a brand new water dimension, but the developers were lazy and made it out of the nether dimension instead. You know, like, let's say that was a thing. This is what it would look like. And honestly, I'm kind of sold on the idea, right? One, the soul sand already kind of works as a way to create bubbles in the atmosphere and keep it being from being too dull, I guess. And two, there's something just magical about flying around and seeing occasional bits of soul sand or obsidian, cobblestone, and you know, like you know, nether quartz ore. It is something really beautiful that we could mock up in literally 3 or 4 minutes. And I really like the idea of like a water-filled nether. Maybe you do too. Let me know. Maybe we should have a water dimension, am I right? I mean, realistically, Minecraft's gonna have 3 dimensions for a while. Jebba said before they add any more dimensions, they want to fix the dimensions they have and make them a lot more interesting. That's why we've got a nether update, and that's why we're pretty sure there's a you know, end update coming soon. I almost said cave update. We're not sure if a cave update, but we should be, damn it. But you can see how right here, like, oh yeah, you know, like a new dimension could come in so many different forms, whether it's a dream dimension, whether it's a water dimension, whether it's anything else like that. And yeah, I wish we had something new dimension-wise, because floating around the water, seeing what you find is a very cool feeling, especially when it's differently colored water, like here in the nether. Seriously, it looks like it's only red because you're seeing netherrack in the background, but it really is super pretty water. Fun fact, nether water, great water. Side note, but I just had the idea. You know how I drained this entire lava lake? I accidentally covered a lot of it in water. What if we turned it into a water lake by filling all of the air blocks we have here with, you know, the water blocks instead? I feel like that's such a great idea. We have to stick with it, right? So in case you've ever wondered what it would look like if we had regular lakes in the nether, here is what it would. And there's something weird about this. Like, too surreal to even imagine it being a real feature. Like, maybe it's partly because of the weird way it's implemented. Maybe it's because you can see the magma directly below it. But it's just a very strange overall thing to look at. And yeah, just in case you want to see the the seawall between the water and the lava, something about this is so beautiful. I want to do it in the overworld. I want to have a lava ocean in the overworld, which I think would take a lot of lava buckets, but seems like a sacrifice worth making in my opinion. Because yeah, the beauty of this like water lava wall, there's just something nice about it, especially if the lava is flowing higher than the water, or maybe vice versa. But yeah, definitely a thing we need to do. But anyway, let's head through the you know, lake in the nether to head back to the overworld. So melons are one of Minecraft's most interesting items. One, because they're not called watermelons like they probably should be, and two, because they're one of the best trades you can make in Minecraft. Just 4 melons turns into an emerald. We all love melons as a result, but I've been questioning, how else can we use melons? As soon as the villagers say they'll trade my melons for me or for a great price, you know, you have to be wondering, like, am I being ripped off? Should I instead be using my melons to do other things? And that's why I'm going to be testing real quick today if we could use melons for more interesting things, such as perhaps covering an island in melons. I mean, they're both green, so it totally makes sense to me. Like, for real, I'm just saying, this looks more like a tropical island than it did when it wasn't covered in melons, but I was thinking, like, just replacing an island, that's kind of boring. What if we replace something much more exciting, like an iceberg biome? I'll be honest with you, I think I like this a lot more than you expect that I would. It's a lot of beauty in a relatively small place, and you know what? It's going to collect snow on it, and that snow is going to be collectible. So if you want to have a more vibrant looking ice biome, this is an option for that. But you know what? Again, it's just a little bit too easy for my liking. So instead, I figured, why not take on Minecraft's mega monument and turn it into a melon monument? I mean, ocean monument, sure, it's kind of catchy, but you know what has way more alliteration? A mega melon monument, which is what we're going to be making today. So a useful pro tip if you ever want to do these same things in creative, I mean, you should be avoiding doing them in survival. So if you are doing something like this, prismarine actually counts as 1 block in the Minecraft code. This is prismarine, and so is dark prismarine. So what we instead do is we use the ID, you know, block just like this, and we use prismarine 1 for dark prismarine 0 for, you know, this prismarine right here, and we're going to use prismarine 2 for the prismarine bricks, which might sound like nothing, especially because prismarine is a made up word for Minecraft, I'm pretty sure. But this means that I can simply, just to show it this way, we can replace, you know, say the, you know, like the prismarine zeros, or actually I'm going to replace prismarine 2 with melons, and what it should look like is this. So again, the regular prismarine will remain, and we can pick another block for that instead, and yeah, it means we can do a little bit more detail than the last time we played around the monument, and we can make this beauty happen. Like, for real here, look at the absolute wonder that is this structure so far. But we can go a little bit further, I reckon. So yeah, that thing about the block IDs that you can put as the number after the block is something that helps me out immensely. Maybe it helps all of you as well. However, because, you know, I had to learn, you know, by myself, and maybe this is useful to anyone who's learned from these videos. However, let me show you what the ocean monument looks like, because this is a true monument to melons. As you can see, every single prismarine brick has been replaced by melons, and they do a really good job at accenting the dirt, which makes sense. I mean, melons grow out of dirt, so there's a few dirt blocks they kind of grow on, and then there's the few pumpkins, just add a little bit of accent to that. I really love it, and I'm hoping it looks just as good on the inside, because again, we replaced every single block in here, which means that every single structure will look like this. All the way through it, you're gonna see how these 3 blocks combine to make this beautiful thing. If we wanted to, we could totally remove all the water and replace it with air, and you know, go a step further on this. But for now, I kind of like that this is all underwater, that there should be an Elder Guardian here somewhere. Although, it looks like I probably killed the Elder Guardian. But, yeah, there should be, you know, some mobs around here somewhere, all spawning around the melons, which is ridiculous, but very much a thing that, look how silly this whole place is. I love it a lot, and maybe you do too. But let's move into the next idea. Because do you know what I find interesting? I find witches' huts to be interesting. It's a really fascinating structure that sometimes protrudes all the way into the depths. They spawn in places that are just strange to look at. I mean, in this case, it's so far away from a swamp that it doesn't even look like it makes sense, but it's a fascinating structure regardless, so I'm gonna do something crazy you're never going to expect. Okay, so I'll admit, I think I went a little bit overboard with this one. I did something even crazier than we've ever done in the Silly Project series. It's something you shouldn't really ever attempt to do in survival at all, because you know what we've done? We've built ourselves a witch's hut in a plains biome. Get this, right? We took the witch hut out of its natural biome and we placed it over here. It's out of place. This can't spawn like this. This is absolutely ridiculous. The mad lad has done it. He's outdone himself again. He built the structure but in the wrong biome, and you know what? I don't think we can top this. However, just for fun, I decided to build it at 10 times scale as well, and as you can see, the witch hut looks ridiculous at this scale. There is just too much witch hut going on right here, and yeah, this is the kind of base of the witch hut before we add in the little corners, because again, doing the blocks 10 by 10 with the fill command's pretty easy, but I'm going to add some little, you know, like details to this, such as the fences, and you know, also, I want to add a little flower pot, so let's do that now. Because yeah, this windowsill just looks so empty with nothing in it. I need to do this just for my own sanity, honestly. So yeah, let's build ourselves a nice little, I guess, little pot right here. It's gonna be, even, honestly, the fun thing about pots is they're so small compared to a regular block that even when you're building at a silly scale, the scale of the pot is gonna look pretty ridiculously tiny, like, oh, look how giant this pot is. It's 3 by 4 by 4, but I'm hoping once we add it in there with some mushroom. How'd you build a mushroom at 4 times scale? I don't really know. I guess we'll just have a little stem coming out of this, and then we'll have it branch off to the side, like with white blocks every now and then. I really don't know what mushrooms look like, but hopefully this is a good approximation. Maybe, sort of. No, this isn't. This isn't what mushrooms look like. Okay, let's have the red be on top there, and then a little white around the outside. There we go. That is a mushroom, and it makes the windowsill slightly less sad. Honestly, given that I was just drawing a mushroom from memory, it could be worse, right? It could be much worse. Honestly, it's only now as I build these fence posts that I question, why exactly do witches have fence posts that are on the side of their house? Like, don't get me wrong, I love the, you know, the accessibility. The witches are clearly considering, you know, disabled access into their house, except for the fact that, you know, like having a little rail there, except for the fact that there's no way up and down, even for the witch themselves. So, I mean, I guess, is it accessibility if you allow no one inside, including yourself? Maybe not. But, yeah, they just seem really dumb, and you don't think about it until you have to build one in 10 times scale. It really is ridiculous. Should we link it to the side just to make this make sense? I mean, I guess it looks mildly better. Still wildly confused though, so I guess we're just gonna go with it. I just can't work out why I have a scale problem with this cauldron and this crafting table. It seems to look small by comparison, and I can't work out why. But yeah, the last thing we need to do now is build the cauldron and build the crafting table, which are never fun things, but let's give it a whirl. As another weird tip that might help you, for some reason Minecraft calls the terracotta colors stained hardened clay, and again they all have the exact same block color that will give you white by default, so you have to know which number you're going to use to work out which exact one we're going to be on. Okay, that's not it. I'm really bad at pixel art, but here is my closest approximation to the top of the crafting table. If you ignore the squares are different sizes, then I think it's going great. But yeah, you can see how the cauldron is actually just about possible as well. So allow me to show you around my witch's hut. I think it's a pretty nice one, and it definitely is the normal scale. As you can see, we don't have a hand, and therefore it must be, right? Yep, that's just how this one works. So as you can see, witch's huts really have pretty plain interiors. I didn't realize till I was building it that just like, oh, it really is. They have a crafting table, again, perfectly accurate, perfectly normal, and they have a witch's, a cauldron, I should say, something you never really need to use yourself in survival, but that when you do find in a witch's hut, it's usually filled with potion. In this case, ours is filled with this pink potion. How delightful. And yeah, there's a little mushroom on the windowsill, a little fence post on the back, and then 2 fence posts at the front. But that is literally it for this witch hut. It is a surprisingly bare-bones structure, and it just reminds me about how lazy certain Minecraft structures have been over the time. Wow, there's even a little chunk missing there. I definitely don't see anything now. But yeah, this is something that honestly took more time to cover in light blocks, because making this whole thing stay lit is incredibly hard. You wouldn't, realize just how much effort it is until you try to cover it up. But yeah, the light blocks were the harder part of this compared to actually building it. So if you want to build a giant Minecraft structure in survival, I would say a witch hut is probably the way to go. But you know what isn't the way to go? This way. So I love Minecraft villages, and I love that you can start them pretty much anywhere you want. In fact, in survival, I've actually made a miniature village in my nether, and I've also started one in my end as well. They're both pretty fun, they're both pretty cool, and you know what, there's one place where you can't create a village, and that is the Aether or Heaven dimension. You can't create a heavenly village because there is no dimension for it, but I want to create the closest thing I can in survival, and that's why I'm going to be taking this village and take it right up here into the sky. This is kind of cool by itself. Honestly, the idea of a sky village is a super great one in my opinion, and you know, if you want to steal it and just do this by itself, I think it's cool enough to have a village which exists in the sky. And yeah, honestly, just a village but without the stone and floating in the air is kind of cool by itself. I mean, at least once you get into the water, which will take quite some time. This is a pretty fun concept by itself. But now we remove the sandstone, which one causes a huge amount of lag as all of the sand from the village falls on top of the first one. Really sorry to those guys down there. Didn't mean to mess with them this way. It's just a sad result of what we're doing. My god, Minecraft does not like what I have done to it today. Okay, so now here comes the fun part in my opinion. I want to replace all of the grass blocks that are left, the kind of connecting blocks which are being bridged across by pathway blocks and indeed these wooden bridges. I want to replace those with some stained glass to make this a much more heavenly village. So it already looks pretty heavenly. I think we're going to have to fill the rest by hand because we don't have any blocks to replace, but you can see how like already it looks like a very floaty village. The glass adds a whole kind of weight to it that makes it much more, again, heaven-like than before. So now we just do this for a few more places, such as in front of this person's doorway so they can get to and from their house. Okay, so 30 minutes of goofing around with block placements later, and here we have it. It is a heavenly village. Somehow, adding more detail to it made it look less heavenly in my opinion. Like I added the river back and that kind of removed some of the effect. Maybe it'd be better without that. But yeah, you can have a village which exists mostly made out of stained glass blocks, as long as you have the fundamentals, which we do, of having beds, of having job sites, and of having food, which you better believe all the way over here we've got a farm attending to. You can in fact have a growing, thriving, successful Minecraft village. And I love that, you know, it's not only just a surviving thing, but a thriving thing that you can find all the way up here in the clouds, or in fact way above the clouds. This is 184 is the layer of this village. The clouds are found all the way down at 130. So just saying, above the clouds, beautiful place for a village. Honestly, I might have to break my own rule here and say this is a project that actually might be worth doing. This whole video is about things you shouldn't try, so we mock them up lazily and creative. But this is the sort of idea that actually might have some real potential, because you can hide a village, especially one made out of stained glass, quite easily above stuff. Like, it's not clear to anyone looking down here where exactly you are. You have to look way up in the sky to be able to see it, and that means you might be able to hide your villagers, and indeed your base if you want to, right in plain sight. So yeah, there might be something to that, in my opinion. Try to just hide so far above everything and made out of glass that people can't see you anyway, and place your bed up there, and then you've got yourself a respawn point. It's dumb, but one of my favorite base ideas really is to just have a bed somewhere in the sky where people aren't imagining to look for it, and then you can jump down to the ground. And if you ever need to get back to that base in the sky, you know, most people have to stack up over 100 blocks to get there. Who has time to do that? But you, because you have your respawn point, you can instantly get up there from anywhere in the world by just setting yourself on fire or dying in a much more savory way, and you can immediately respawn back up at the top, which is a wonderful way to, you know, like teleport around basically in Minecraft. And yeah, the views from up here are pretty great as well. Sky base, wonderful idea, but add some villagers to your sky base is the takeaway from this that you might be able to actually use. So yeah, that's actually a fun idea that I really want to work on now. But you know what fun ideas we want to work on? Guess what it's also time for? It's time for we have to make a mountain in every one of these silly project videos, because I am trying to make a good mountain. It is a little bit of a tradition in this series that we try to make a mountain every time, and yeah, the lazy methods just aren't making convincing mountains. Here's the same bit of terrain just smushed on itself over and over again. As you can see, there's a little bit of a difficulty believing that's a real mountain, so I figured let's use the fill command, and the fill command, I mean, it's not really perfect, is it? I mean, no one's arguing this is great. So then I tried to use mountains with a bit more of a sophisticated stacking, so it's not perfectly the same as it goes up. And again, it just doesn't look so great. Even my inverted mountain, which I was really believing in right there, I mean, it just isn't a very great mountain, and this one took 3 hours, so it wasn't even a very fast mock-up either, because again, we tried to perfectly invert every block in the mountain. I don't know why I spent 3 hours on something that honestly just looks like I blew it up with TNT, but that is a seriously inverted mountain. What if instead of inverting it though, we effectively doubled every single layer in this mountain? So you see how we're at layer 69 right now? What if we doubled that up to 138? What if we took every layer 70 block and we doubled it up to 140, and so on and so forth for every single block in the mountain? Again, rather than copy pasting it on the top, what if we doubled every single block in the mountain? How would that look? So yeah, this is what the mountain is looking like so far, with just the top half or so, you know, covered in the blocks. And as you can see, it actually does have the look of an amplified mountain. There's this funny, like, contrast between the bits we haven't done and the bits we have done so far. It's a very weird one, but I'm excited to see, you know, where this goes in the future, because for the first time, we have a mountain that is actually vaguely looking like a mountain after we're crazily amplifying it. So that's good news. But I'll get back to you in another couple of hours when we finish the rest. For once, it was actually successful. Look at it. The mountain looks like a real enough mountain because we followed the original gradient. Doing it by hand and spending hours on it might seem silly, but it does keep the original kind of mountain feel, and that means that it actually looks like a mountain. There's even a heart right here, which is formed by accident, and isn't that nice? And the plan from here, because again, there's just this problem where, like, it looks great until you zoom out and you see the gap to the floor. And the plan to fix that is, like, what if instead of just having it go all the way down from, you know, like 160 blocks in the sky down to nothing, what if we slowly stagger it down like 10 blocks at a time? So from 72, we'll go up to like 62 blocks. From 71, we'll go down to 51. And we should just slowly, gradually manage that and actually just have a super steep, but an actual climb that isn't 50 blocks, then 2 blocks, then 2 blocks. And we'll see how that one looks after another couple of hours. So I mean, in conclusion, what you can say pretty clearly here is that for the first time in stupid project history, we have managed to make a mountain which actually somewhat looks like a mountain. And in my opinion, this is actually better than an amplified terrain thing too, because amplified terrain just kind of like messes with everything on the same axis. This keeps the same rough mountain coordinates. It's still pretty climbable at the top. It just has it being a very high distance from the ground, and I really love the end result here. I think there's a mild beauty that you can see by looking at this mountain. And yeah, for the first time in ToyCat silly mountain creation time history, we've actually made one. But yeah, so this is another survival project that you shouldn't try in survival, and that hopefully me trying here in creative has encouraged you to do. Obviously, half the point of this series is to show how, like, oh yeah, there are some silly ideas I have that I have to think, no, don't try that in survival. But the other half of it is like, hey, did you know, playing around in creative, there's a lot of powerful tools you have at your disposal. In Minecraft Bedrock, you don't have the same access to commands and outside programs as you do in Java, but if you want to play around with things, you can still do some pretty interesting stuff if you're willing to put some time into it, and hopefully this video has shown you precisely that. And if it hasn't, then maybe it's shown you how, hey, isn't it real wacky when you make a village out of glass? Like, for real, for every 10 ideas I have, I'd say one of them is actually a good idea to do. I mean, I end up doing most of them anyway, but you can see how, like, this floating village on using glass to make it heavenly is a really great idea. There's just something wonderful and whimsical about seeing the villagers, you know, spawn up here. And also, if you make the village yourself, which you basically have to, you can always choose to make it across a biome boundary, which means that when villagers are born on this side, they'll spawn as desert villagers, and when they spawn on this side, they can spawn as plains villagers, or any two biomes of your choosing. You can go plains, jungle, jungle, swamp. You can pick any two biomes to build this above, and it's such a cool idea that I'm just saying. Everything else here, obviously kind of a joke. This one is a solid idea that we just built in creative because it was easier, and that you actually totally should try and survival against my best wishes. By the way, using these sorts of silly projects all the time is a great way to get a lot of stuff done, even if it's not great stuff. So for instance, I tried to, you know, it's for something I'm currently working on. I want to make a recreation of the world, maybe for something to do with viruses, but I wanted to make a square version of a sphere, which doesn't make any sense, but I figured let's try and do it anyway, and this is what we came up with. And all it is it's just filling in blocks with a slightly increasing radius, like you would with a circle. It was a lot of fun in my opinion, and yeah, it's something that you can do all by yourself in lots of different cases. I hope this video inspires you, and hopefully you make things that are better than this, because, you know, this is pretty darn dire, right? It doesn't look how I wanted it to, but it will do the job just fine. So, upcoming video, sneak peek at the end of another video. How nice. Basically just a YouTuber promoting other YouTube videos. So actually, it's the opposite of nice. What a fraud I am. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope this inspires you in some way. And if it doesn't, then thank you for watching all this way anyway. It helps out the channel just as much if you're uninterested as if you are, which is why I guess so many YouTubers have tried to be such hateable people. Because if you watch them because you hate them, it's just as good as if you watch them because you love them. But with that said, I hope you all enjoyed this, and I hope you did like it, even though it doesn't technically matter if you do or don't, because I tried my best to make Minecraft Bedrock videos that aren't the worst thing in the world, and I hope you all do enjoy and appreciate that. But if you don't, then have a nice day anyway, because I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.